join live with our program very soon. Actually, we are live right now, but we're going to let some people join us. Let some people join the stream, and then we'll give you an excellent show. A really big show tonight. Huge show tonight. Welcome to our stream. Going to give a couple more minutes, get some people on the stream. Invite people. Share this out, would you? Share it out to your friends. Share it out to people who love watching this. Share it out to people who hate watching this. Just share. Hang on, people. We're about to start the show.
Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the United Nations Framing Convention on Climate Change, COP25 as it is otherwise known. This year it took place in Madrid, Spain. And there were some very interesting developments, including Greta Thunberg teaming up with indigenous women from organizations that we have been looking at, like the Leo DiCaprio.
The Leo DiCaprio, yes, that guy.
Leo DiCaprio's foundation, or funded foundation, We Can. In a previous show, we kind of went through some of the boards and the leadership of these organizations, and we will look at those again tonight because, folks, there are at least 2 or 3 staged events that occurred out there at COP25, for which the indigenous media and indigenous people are up in arms today. The indigenous women went up on stage, rushed the stage in order to take the microphone and talk about missing and murdered indigenous women. And they had their mics turned off.
Oh, yeah.
And they were, this is what they claim, they had their mics turned off and they were taken off, they were asked to leave the stage, and they were very upset about that. They also protested at the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, Spain, again, for missing and murdered indigenous women and the things that the different types of hurdles they have in staying safe and staying alive, including oil production.
Yeah.
This is one of the things they were talking about at this. And here's the thing, folks. I call these staged events because that's what they do. They stage events that they can then have outrage. Remember the time the delegation, the Israel delegation of Native Americans that went over there with the heads of the Women's March, Linda Sarsour. Remember that Chase Iron Eyes went through the airline check and said that they were trying to have his feather removed?
Yeah.
There was so many different things that happened at Standing Rock that were clashes between authorities and Native Americans that caused people anger and outrage. Like when they were in the water and they were being pepper sprayed in the cold. Like when they were out in the freezing weather on November 20th and they were shot with water hoses. These were all staged events, come to find out. And remember the staged event that took place at the Indigenous Peoples March, where Nathan Phillips said that he was confronted by some rude, racist, Republican, probably MAGA hat wearing kids from the Covington Catholics High School.
Oh, yeah.
Orchestrated once again to generate outrage. How dare they? It's supposed to get to the core, to the heart of some of the most painful and tragic things that have happened to Native people, to Indian people, to Native Americans, indigenous people on this continent. And I find it very triggering to do that to people when it is faked. Because you are triggering real trauma. You are triggering and reopening real wounds. For what? In order to make the case that you have the moral authority to stage these theatrical moments. To force people to have some kind of
emotional response,
to feel sorry for you. I
guess.
And
you know, these disruptive tactics. You know, it's just sad. It's embarrassing. It's I can understand where you can use disruptive tactics if you've been shut out and you haven't been heard. But that's just going to things and just showing up and then being angry because they shut your mic off. That's what happens when you go to the Academy Awards and you try to storm the stage. You weren't invited, you know. You can have a platform for your issues. There's plenty of opportunity. Why go in there and disrupt everything? And that's not going to get you heard. It's going to get you noticed. It's going to push an agenda. It's going to get you funding. It's going to get these things. But it's disruptive and it's rude to the people who put these things together.
I have shown you on my show that a lot of these people are failed actors or just bad ones. D-list actors or people that would like to be involved in showbiz, in Hollywood. And that many of the events that put them in the media, that gave them their claim to fame, like Pendeja for Fraud, or as you know her, Paloma for Trump, you have staged events where the cameras were there waiting for her to go and shove a migrant child. And it wasn't used, and it didn't go viral until 6 months later. And then she got into the White House. You notice how these things have their moment. Recently, I showed you another media appearance in a cartel cruise VH1 program, reality trash show, in which Paloma for Fraud was featured. Staged events. And remember that I had told you long ago, before this horrible television program came out, that the fight between the Brown Berets and Pendeja for Fraud was staged. Because I told you that that's what they do. They stage these events and they get mad at each other and they fight. And there's usually a camera around. I could go on and on and on and on with all of the fake things these people fake. Remember when Maria Mesa and her kids were kidnapped?
Yeah.
And ran for 5 hours miraculously?
Yep, exactly, yeah.
Down the road, like the Road Runner. Her and her 5 children. We escaped the kidnapping! Pendeja for Fraud, put that on a tape. And people somehow believe that these are kind and honorable people. It's a show. It is a show. And it is literally rife with amateurs in acting and experts at defrauding, at lying, at stalking, at harassing, at terrorizing, at stealing, at assaulting, at kidnapping, at raping. They're good at that stuff. They have a track record of being involved in criminal activity or in acting or both. It should disturb every single one of you that these people that are faking events like Jussie Smollett,
Oh, yeah.
in order to gain the sympathy of people like them, right? Who do have experiences of racism. Yes, there are and have been racially motivated attacks in this country. Some of them racially motivated by the racist rhetoric of the president. But the Jussie Smollett thing was staged. That was clearly fake. And so many of these things are fake. And I know how to tell when they stage these situations and fake them, because I experienced it with the Kathleen Bennett case, where they framed an innocent woman. Yes, they are capable of throwing people in jail and locking the door and throwing away the key and leaving them there to rot. They did it to Kathleen. They helped to get thousands of people arrested in the years since Standing Rock. In the multitudes of camps and staged events, all having to do with climate change, immigration, and missing and murdered Indigenous women. And the hypocrisy behind realizing that these people started out trying to frame an innocent Oglala Lakota woman and leave her mother to die in a hospital in the Kathleen Bennett case. I am completely disgusted to see these people traveling the world, selling documentaries and books and t-shirts and jewelry, and saying, I talk to dead people. I'm going to find missing and murdered Indigenous women. Like Mulaney Stoneman, the kidnapper in the Kathleen Bennett case, has said. So, folks, I'm going to go through all of the frauds, the fakes, and the phonies that showed up in this climate change event in Spain, in Madrid, and the feigned outrage, the fake outrage that a lot of these indigenous media people in these groups connected to the Society of Native Nations, whose co-founder, Pedro Regabo Gutierrez, a.k.a. Pete Heflin, was a fugitive of the law and a multi-time felon, which included crimes of raping women, and AIM and what's the other group besides the Society of Native Nations that was included? Oh, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous
There you go.
Women.
Yeah.
Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women groups. So let us begin. But first, I want to let you announce our supporters, our sponsor, our latest sponsor, and tell people how they can get a hold of us.
Well, thank you very much. And, it's coming to the end of the year. And we're a nonprofit organization. We rely on donations and community support. If you'd like to make a donation to help us out, it's tax deductible. It goes towards the cost of running the station. Just go to kpppfm.com/donate and make a donation. We very much appreciate that. You can get a hold of us many different ways. We have a call-in line, 701-566-0917. You can give us a call and leave a message. You can email Cindy at kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can go to Facebook at 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, the People's Press Project of Mexi-Can. You can tweet us at media_PPP. Also, when you go to kpppfm.com, you can look around at our shows and you can look around at some of the information. Cindy mentioned underwriting. We have underwriting opportunities where you can advertise your business by making a tax-deductible donation to us, and then we'll air some kind of message about your business supporting us. Our sponsor from last month is Make My Life Great Again, PalomaForTrump.com. Paloma, number 4, Trump.com. If you'd like to find out more about underwriting, go to kpppfm.com and look for the underwriting tab and read all about it. We also broadcast on the air here in Fargo Moorhead. We take a lot of these programs and we edit the audio for radio play. Some we do, some we don't. So people in the local community will hear your contribution on the air. That would be great. And also our YouTube channel. It's Duke 1517. Every program we put on Facebook, we will put on YouTube. Every live stream we do on YouTube, we'll put on Facebook. So to find our YouTube channel and watch our lives there, go to Duke 1517 on YouTube. And thank you very much and enjoy the show.
So let's dive in and look at some of these folks. You need to know who these phonies are. And if you aren't already upset at the fact that people like Pendeja for Fraud and some of the people that I've brought to you on my show masquerade as one thing while wearing a mask, literally faking, acting. These folks, many of them appear to have, I want to say like they are okay with prostitution or sex work.
They condone it.
Yep. They say that they want to protect women from stalking, harassment, all of these other things. But they themselves participate in doing these things. Or they prop up and work with people that do. People that rape kids, that rape women, that kidnap people, that are involved in the sale and the distribution of drugs, that are involved in human smuggling, that are felons. And you have to ask yourself, how in the hell do you have the moral authority to tell anybody anything, especially climate change and how it's connected to man camps and oil, and we're hurting Mother Earth and raping the women, and yet these people and these organizations are literally riddled with working with people directly involved in committing crimes against women, indigenous women, which they didn't have a problem with, which they knew about at the time and didn't care about, didn't do anything about, and continue to work with the people that put an innocent Oglala Lakota woman in jail and left her mother in a hospital to die. I will never, ever, ever, ever let them forget it. Neither the people that directly made the false accusations with the Morton County Police Department, who were Bill Running Fisher, Mulaney Stoneman, and Christina Hollenbeck, but also those who gave false statements that were used by officers Josh Selly and Captain Grubel in order to take away custody of Mary Trujillo and leave her in a Bismarck hospital to die, and put an innocent woman, her only caretaker, her daughter, Kathleen Bennett. These folks fought hard to put an innocent person in jail, to keep her there, and to silence anyone like yours truly who would expose their heinous crimes and hold them accountable. Well, I am holding them accountable, and I will do so in perpetuity as long as I draw breath. I will make sure to remind everybody of who took part. And when I saw them taking part in COP20, I was like, hijos de su madre, ¿por qué? How are these people there? How are you parading around with people that were involved in taking an innocent woman, framing her, and putting her in jail? Don't understand. Let me tell you, Indigenous Environmental Network sent around this email talking about their group, It Takes Roots, and what they're going to be doing in COP20. This email sent by Jennifer Falcon, who I've told you is one of their, I think she's the executive, one of the communications people.
Okay, head of communications.
One of the head of communications, yes. And the email talks about how their alliance is going to be going to this United Nations Climate Conference, aka COP25, and that they're in supposed alliance with the people in Chile, and also they want to talk about carbon pricing and changing Article 6. And Jennifer Falcon closes this email with, the next one is Jennifer Falcon closing email. I think it's right there. With some hashtags. It takes roots. Keep it in the ground. That's talking about the oil, right?
Yep.
Sky protectors. This is similar to water protectors.
Oh,
too.
sky protector.
Yeah. Sky protector. Yeah. And then
air protectors.
Right, air protectors. Yes. Well, we have water protectors. We might as well get some air protectors.
Yeah.
And I'll share the link to the Instagram account for It Takes Roots. But from their Instagram page, you find from the screenshot that I took that it doesn't have a long history. Obviously, they don't seem to have many posts. You can see there's only about 12. So Insta page screenshot shows you that there's not a long history for the It Takes Root page. And if you scroll down, you'll see that because they have maybe 12 posts total or so. You see there are
lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures, but that's it. That's where it ends, right there.
Really?
That's all.
Huh.
Normally, Instagram pages
have some words on them.
have a lot more entries than that one. So I realized, oh wow, there's not a lot on here. The COP24 post that they made in there, the very first one that you saw at the bottom, is about their, and this is dated December 18th, the hashtag Exodus in Tijuana.
Oh.
And they talk about how they're going to go there. And in this next slide, the Roots tactical team is talking about how they're in TJ.
Wow.
We're going to Tijuana. We're going to go help with the migrants. And it has links to other people that they're with, which includes the GJ Alliance, which I believe was another Instagram page called the Grassroots Global Justice Alliance. Then that old link is no longer live, but a shorter, similar sounding organization called Grassroots Justice Alliance does exist, and it is only linked in subsequent posts. So, are the North Bay Organizing Project, the Southwest Workers Union, the Just Transitions Alliance, Indigenous Media Rising, and the Right to City Alliance. I felt that it would be important at least to mention all of those names. I know there's a lot of you who watch my show, who do a lot of research, who look into who's that? Mm-hmm. And I appreciate it because
for sure.
It helps me. So I'm just giving all these folks a shout out. And in this next slide, you'll see how Roots is littered with people from the Indigenous Environmental Network.
Okay.
Because here you have Indigenous Environmental Society of Native Nations tagged as one of the groups. Remember, that's the Society of Native Nations co-founded by a rapist of women.
Yeah.
That I showed you in a previous show. And Frankie Arona, who was also in jail for rape. So both of the co-founders, rapists. Mm-hmm. And remember, we're going to get to the teary part of the COP25. As you can see, the ladies behind me are very, very sad because they're upset about the murdered and the missing Indigenous women, the harm to the vulnerable Indigenous women. Yet, they're literally working with organizations led by people that are involved in doing heinous things to women. And after the Society of Native Nations tag, you find one for the Indigenous Environmental Network. Here's Tom Goldtooth standing in the corner holding a little, sun flag for whatever organization that is. Mm-hmm. But there is an Indigenous Environmental Network banner right up in the front, all the way on the other side. So you find this thing that keeps happening over and over again with people from the Indigenous Environmental Network showing up in all of these different groups that were tagged in that original email sent out by the Indigenous Environmental Network. This Roots campaign talks about how they were live from Spain and Chile. Chile. That's how it's said. Yeah. And they're talking here about the climate negotiation conference in COP25. Who is that right up front? Why, it's the Indigenous Environmental Network, Candy Mossett White.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
It's like they just recycle these people, and now she's part of it. Takes roots, you know. Here they are. Here's Tom Goldtooth at his photo at COP25. Also, from in this same It Takes Roots page. That's Tom Goldtooth's photo. He took that picture.
Okay.
From COP25 in this panel, and then the Indigenous Rising Media Instagram page shows this. Indigenous Rising Media has an Instagram page also linked as one of the allied organizations, all of these groups that were involved in COP25. And it shows Ebony Messiah Sweetgrass Bursigua Hamid. She has many names. Her real name is Ebony Bursiaga Hamid. That's her real name. Ebony Bursiaga Hamid. Her mom is a Chicana that started, from the Oakland, California area, that like many of those Mexicanos that live out there started to connect to these groups with some rather radical ideas about sending the colonizers back on the Mayflower that came in. Yeah. And us Mexicans and First Nations people reclaiming the land for us and kicking out the colonizers. I am aware as a Mexican that I am part indigenous, that I have indigenous ancestors, But I don't feel like I need to get rid of the white people and kick them off the island or kick them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that those kind of radical groups also want the Mexicans that live here to identify with the indigenous identity, not with the binational, biracial, multinational melting pot that America is known for. You know, the idea that incidentally you are an American, but you're really an indigenous person, and you're never really going to be accepted by the massa, the colonizer, right?
Yeah.
Well, Ebony, a.k.a. Messiah Sweetgrass Bursiaga Hamid, enraged me when I saw her. Here's her picture from the COP25 Instagram page. Messiah Ebony Hamid, COP25. And that when I saw it, I was like, that's
what's she doing,
Ebony. That's Messiah Sweetgrass.
Oh yeah,
Bursiaga Hamid. Now, her real name is Ebony Hamid. Does that sound to you like she is Native American?
No.
No. By the way, she also was involved in the case framing an innocent woman. This is the discovery from February 24, 2017. And in this, you can clearly see that a statement was given to Officer Josh Selly of Morton County involving a possible abuse or neglect of a vulnerable adult, Mary Trujillo, and that she was admitted to St. Alexius for medical issues. No, she had no medical issues. They lied about that. The medical staff, Vanessa, a variety of people at the camp lied, made up out of whole cloth, that this innocent woman with dementia was abused horribly by her daughter, Kathleen Bennett. And let me just show you the camp security statement made by Miss Bursiaga and how it affected, how these statements from the camp security, including hers, condemned an innocent woman, Kathleen, and had her mother taken away from her and put in an early grave, by the way, because of that kidnapping. Here's what the officer wrote. Kathleen and Mary are in North Dakota in the Ochetisecoan camp for the protests. Camp security says that they had resided in the camp since sometime in October, according to numerous witness statements. Remember, these are false statements.
Exactly.
Kathleen would physically tie Mary to a chair to keep her from leaving while she went to protest. The statements all mostly state that Mary was malnourished, in poor health, and didn't have all her mental faculties. Kathleen would apparently only feed Mary when she deemed it appropriate, not when Mary would say she was hungry. If anyone else in the Tarpey tried to feed Mary, Kathleen would get upset. The statement also says Mary was kept in a diaper, which would only be changed a few times a day. Kathleen would not put pants on Mary, even though she was living in a Tarpey during the severe North Dakota winter.
Wow.
It was alleged by Bill Running Fisher, corroborated by the lying kidnapper, Mulaney Stoneman, that this woman was found naked. This woman with dementia in her 80s, an Oglala Lakota elder, was found naked, covered in excrement and urine, in a frozen teepee in the winter, in the freezing, cold, snowy aftermath of a blizzard. And you know what? All of it was made up. You would think it would be impossible for someone to make up something so horrific and do something and lie about it. and put someone in jail and leave them there and have a clear conscience and then go and do it again and again and again. But yes, these people have no soul. They don't care. Here's a clip. Here is Messiah's statement to Josh Selly. This is her statement, and I underlined some key things that he talks about. This is the statement that was sent by Christina Hollenbeck, the kingpin from the rich billionaire association group Nexus.
Yes.
The rich, the powerful, and the lying left. Here is Christina email to Alexandria Ranger, who's one of the investigators in the case. And it is regarding a statement. This is a statement for the investigation against Kathleen Bennett, submitted by Messiah, which this pendeja Christina Hollenbeck spells incorrectly because Messiah spells her fake name, first name, which isn't Messiah, but Ebony, with one S.
I see.
Saying that on December 7th, they even got that wrong. Somebody had to write in, actually it was the 6th. These people couldn't get their lies straight even as it was happening, as they were telling the lies. They were like, wait a minute.
And they can scribble all over evidence that's been submitted, and change dates, and who knows, who wasn't even initialed who wrote that in there.
This was a very loosely constructed farce.
Yep.
This house of cards was very loosely constructed. She goes on to say in the statement that they were going and doing house checks. They were acting as security for the camp. And it says she was from the women's security team. You see that?
Yep.
Messiah doesn't know anything about security. She doesn't have any training as a first responder or as a community watch person or as a security guard or any nothing. These people just named themselves like Mulaney did. I'm a medic.
Yeah, that's right.
They just take on roles like cheap, fake, bad actresses. And they don't know what they're talking about. These are very, very ignorant people. Did you hear recently that Paloma for Trump, pendeja for fraud, finally finished school? And yet she has nothing to show for it. She couldn't complete a thought on anything that she actually learned, but she really, 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 really likes it. I really love it. It's so much fun. It's so great. My brain grew so huge.
I know so much now about everything.
I know about it all. That is exactly how the pendejas from Standing Rock, like Mulaney Stone, how these frauds talk. They're stupid. Like those pirujas that were in that cartel cruise
That's right,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, look, the wall's right there. I can actually see it.
Yeah. Like, you can see through the wall. It's like, oh my God, the stupid is so painfully obvious. Messiah's statement also says that she tries to make this woman, Kathleen Bennett, seem like a horrible person. And she says that Olive, the other woman who lied, who corroborated the lie of this liar, Olive Bias, also another person who likes to pretend to be an Indian and was a part of the security team that committed many crimes, not just against Kathleen Bennett. And they say that this woman, Mary, showed her a bruise and said, ouch. Or she said, ouch to her. And then she mouthed back, it doesn't really hurt. Remember, this is a woman with dementia who doesn't really talk a lot.
Yeah.
And yet she was speaking here. And then apparently Messiah left concerned. She was worried about her. She seemed to be a person that was aching for attention, so much so that she was trying to get the attention of this security woman who came by and tell her she really needed some human interaction. She was so happy that Messiah feeling sorry for this poor elder, gave her her bracelet.
Yeah.
These people are so disgusting. Like Paloma for fraud, like Pendeja for Trump, they like to go after vulnerable people. Like Mary Tando's granddaughter.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of a sick, disgusting, POS human being makes fun of and belittles a woman who takes care of her adult granddaughter with a disability? There's a lot of people that have cared for and love people with disabilities and with dementia, by the way. And they are disgusted with people like Pendeja for fraud. They're disgusted by it. And a lot of people became very disgusted with Mulaney Stoneman and all of the people that were involved in putting Kathleen Bennett in jail. Here's a criminal complaint, just so you know. They charged her criminally. She was facing 15 years in jail. The rest of her adult life, pretty much. They were going to sentence her to life in prison for something she never could have done. We managed to get all of her charges dropped, but not anywhere because of the help of this Messiah who was out in COP25. This poor woman, Mary, was left in a hospital, and it was heartbreaking to see this woman abandoned, left alone, this frail woman who ended up getting bed sores and ended up dying long before she should have. Kathleen Bennett told me that she was just a year or two back starting to show the initial stages of dementia, which is why she had turned over her care, her, what's it called, power of attorney to her daughter. And they frequently traveled from Nevada to the Pine Ridge Reservation, where they have family, to visit. These folks in the leadership of these nonsense organizations doing nonsense work, hurting Indigenous people, exploiting Indigenous people, exploiting refugees, exploiting these issues for their climate change policies, for their energy policies.
So this Messiah was at that climate summit. This is a woman who was never held accountable for her lying, for fabricating evidence, for putting Kathleen Bennett in jail. And there was a bunch of them. And she was one that was at the top of making up lies and saying things that actually couldn't have happened. She was never held accountable because she was never called as a witness.
They were hanging out and partying in hotel rooms.
Yeah, and she's, we showed that on our shows. You have to go way back and
Mike
look at her.
Fasig and hanging out with Derek Fasig, the guy that went on to rape a woman who's now in prison for kidnapping and raping Lacey Jean Williams, Mulaney's foster daughter.
Yep.
These people are a trash fire. Trash fire. And yet, somebody's buying her tickets.
Yeah.
Sustain Us is one of the organizations that put out her bio, and I'll share the link with all of you so you can check it out. And it says on her bio on this page that she is the executive or soon to be executive of a thing called Native Land. Native Land is basically an interactive map that she had nothing to do with the creation of. But she is on the board of the organization, and she is listed as being an indigenous. I'll show you the entry here somewhere. Tom Goldtooth is also on the Sustain Us page because, of course, the Indigenous Environmental Network leadership, Tom Goldtooth, Dallas Goldtooth, Candy Mossett White, Joy Braun, and Jessica Falcone, and the Sherry Foytlin, and some of the other people that I've shown you, exposed to you on my show, many of whom have connections to AIM, the criminal, I see it as a criminal gang organization. they're all over the place on all of these pages. You can look at the Meet the Team page and see who's also on this organization or delegation of Indigenous youth besides Messiah. She's the one all the way in the back with her fist raised.
I see her.
And it's a group of people that includes, if you scroll down, the daughter of Nathan Phillips.
What?
Nathan Phillips, the guy that pulled the hoax at the Indigenous Peoples March.
Wow.
That runs the Native Youth Alliance. That Althea Phillips? Mm-hmm. Yes. That's Nathan Phillips's daughter. The organization's leader of the organization that helped to perpetrate and perpetuate the hoax against the Covington Catholic School kids. By the way, a lot of these same groups and organizations are pissed as hell right now because that lawsuit was reopened by the same judge that originally shut it down. And I can't wait. Ooh, I hope those lawyers from that lawsuit that are going to sue the Washington Post for $250,000 are watching my show right now. And if they're not, I hope you all send them my show. Hey, tell them to give me a call. I got plenty of information on Nathan Phillips and his daughter and the hoaxes that they have been part of and helped in perpetrating, along with these other Native American groups and organizations like the Society of Native Nations and AIM, and now the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women groups. Mm-hmm. Also, Native Youth Alliance. Did you already put that one up?
Nope.
This is from the same page on Sustain Us. It shows more detail about her. And it says she's the lead organizer of that organization that helped perpetrate that hoax.
Wow.
In D.C., which is the Native Youth Alliance, right?
Yep.
And Althea Phillips' post was about the hoax, where she is still supporting her dad, Nathan Phillips.
Oh, boy.
And how can you PayPal them? Because they need money. Mm-hmm. They're always an organization out to get money, and they don't do really anything with Native youth except for the people relatively close to them in their circle of friends or family, which is mainly family members that are just traveling around doing all of these crazy protests and marches and hoaxes. And it's shared by an actress from Hollywood that was also involved at Standing Rock, Maya Rose Burko, who I have also talked to you about in the past. These are all failed, bad, nasty, no job having actors and actresses with Indians, some of them not even real Indians, posing for money, posing for movies, for documentaries, for the runway. By the way, both Rose and her gal pal Messiah Sweetgrass, pictured here with her in one of Maya's other posts, are both models as well. Yes. I also know that Althea Phillips, that Doug McLean was at the Indigenous Peoples March, and he was in Tijuana, as you will recall.
Oh, yeah.
He crossed the border, complained about getting put into secondary screening.
Yeah.
One of the many times that he has had to do that, along with his buddy Myron Dewey, Evan Duke, and many of the other people on the watch list, on our government watch list, for participating with organizations that are doing human smuggling and trafficking of people and children. And here he is with Nathan Phillips.
Wow.
And Althea and John Gonzalez.
Great.
There's Kei Kudimoto. Kei Kudimoto from that musical band involved with the church that was in Cartel Cruise Show.
Yep, exactly.
Are you guys putting these criminals together now? Mm-hmm. Is it starting to fit in?
Yeah, they travel together.
The Cartel Cruise show just had the Border Church in it. Did you watch my Cartel Cruise show? It's on YouTube, on Duke 1517. Go subscribe.
Exactly.
Like the show. The show featuring the criminals, basically cartel-connected people trying to pretend that they are human justice lovers, featuring Pendeja for Fraud and her pimp husband, Jane Naden Faraon, but also featuring the Border Church and the folks involved with that Border Church, from the Crooked Lawyers Group of Al Otro Lado, the smuggling operation of Pueblos Sin Fronteras, Alex Mensing, the Kei Kurimoto, Adam Elfers, Douglas Oviedo dance show, El Puente, whatever they are. All of these people involving themselves in very, very sketchy behavior. And of course, they all were in San Francisco for a march that took place, if you will recall, in September of 2018, I believe. Here's a picture of one of the many people involved in that. Another pretend Indian.
Oh, that's right.
Desiree Kane.
Oh, yeah.
She was out there with her boy toy, the latest one, Aldo Seoane. Before that, she was bunking up in a hotel room. This is really sick information, folks, I'm going to share with you. But relating to the missing and murdered Indigenous women, that Desiree Kane was the leader of the page looking for Olivia Lone Bear.
That's right.
And from what I heard directly from Lissa Yellowbird Chase's mouth, which was one of the people conducting searches in the Minneapolis area, Desiree Kane went and got picked up by Matthew Lone Bear in somebody's borrowed car because he had no driving by law. And she got left on the side of a road. And they were hanging out in the hotel bedroom, smooching it up, not really looking. And she thought, she told me, she thought they probably didn't even have that prize money for whoever found her anymore.
Wow.
Then she went and found her with Mulaney Stoneman anyhow. These people are involved in some sketchy, terrifying stuff. Here is Desiree Seven talking about Desiree Kane being one of their organizers, working with these Hollywood PR people. Seven McDonald of Country Joe and the Fish fame. That's her daddy.
Oh, yeah.
Who sings that song for Vietnam, we're all going to hell.
There's a 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam.
Yep.
And it's 5, 6. You got it.
And of course, Winnie Wong chimes in and says, yes, Desiree Kane is our organizer. Organizer for what? Because Desiree Kane also works with the Bernie Sanders campaign. She's one of the lead people working with Bernie Sanders. Ebony Messiah Hamid is an actress. Here's her IMDb. Except she's only in one documentary called Scraps. I guess she got the scraps of the movie industry.
Kind of like Paloma.
She's not
in one movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
She's in like crappy roles and never really makes it.
That's right.
I told you they're all wannabe actors and actresses. You know, they want to be in the entertainment industry. Well, let's be honest. They're huevones. You know, they're bums. They don't want to work. And they want to do professional lying.
Yep.
Messiah Borsigua Hamid's bio from Native Land says that she is a two-spirit. That means she's queer. An Afro-Indigenous youth leader. Afro-Indigenous. Okay. She grew up on the front line in occupied Ohlone territory. That's the name of a tribe. And occupied Lenape territory. She doesn't claim that she is either of those things, but it kind of makes it sound like she is. Desiree Kane also uses that trick.
Oh, yeah.
And then eventually they just start calling themselves something they're not. In Desiree Kane's case, it's Miwok. I'm Miwok.
That's right.
And, of course, it says here that she is a youth, part of the youth collective. And is that the whole thing? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I looked at the people that are supposed to be on this native land group, board, whatever. Mm-hmm. A lot of them look to be non-native people, which I think includes her. She's not Native American. She's not from any recognized tribe. A lot of these folks, as I've shown you, many of the people in the Carrizo Come Crudo tribe are just Mexicans pretend Indianing. Mm-hmm. Pretend Indianing because putting some feathers in your hat, war paint on your face, and pretending that you are part of this long lost culture gives you the moral authority to tell people how they can develop their energy policies and in their local economies, because you're going to cry about the missing and murdered Indigenous women.
And you can break into meetings and disrupt meetings.
Exactly. And lie. And lie and lie and lie and lie. So this Canadian nonprofit, Native Land, it was just incorporated in 2018.
Okay.
This is very new stuff. And according to this Guardian article that goes back to the time of Standing Rock, when titled Last Stand, Water Protectors Return to Standing Rock, you see that even though she had in her youth never mentioned that she was Indigenous, in this article, Guardian article, Messiah says she's Apache, Mexican, and Lakota.
Really?
The Mexican part, I believe, because her mother on her own Instagram page identifies as a. Are you gonna show the article? Mm-hmm. Where it says Messiah is Apache,
gotcha,
Mexican, and Lakota.
There you go. Got it up there.
And she had never before mentioned that she was anything. But by the time she is hanging out with the security team at Standing Rock, she is Lakota and she is Apache to boot. And here she is quoted. Oh, can you please put that back?
Sorry.
Here she is quoted next to the unfortunate photo of rapist and child registered sex offender Frank Archambault.
Okay.
A cousin, I believe, to Dave Archambault, the chief of the tribe at the time. I believe he still may be the chief. But there was a lot of these types of sketchy figures within the security teams, not the least of which was Mulaney Stoneman, of course. Messiah, at 16, made no mention. In this next slide, Messiah, at 16, made no mention of being Lakota. She talks about being, from a very young age, involved in activism. And she was quoted frequently from Occupy Wall Street. She was in multiple confrontations with police. She was featured in many articles and news stories. She was only 16 at the time that she was attending at Occupy Wall Street, where I showed you in previous shows, people had to be separated into groups of men and women because of the rampant raping that went on. Also at Standing Rock, abuse of women by many of the men in the security team that she was hanging out with, incidentally. And here's Messiah's mom. Messiah's mom is a woman that goes online by the name of Sybil Mariposa Burciaga. She is, as I said, very heavily identified as a Chicana, which tells me a lot about her history. But also, she, I think that from looking at her, what she likes to involve herself in, there's a lot of, hippie, new agey, connecting to your indigenous roots, but also, hanging out naked and just, being body positive about being naked in the wilderness, which she does with her mom. It's a lolly bee. It's a It's this vibe from these these women that suddenly became Indian, like Laura Christina Livingston Berger.
Exactly.
and they even have an affect. Even somebody as blonde and tall and distinctly not Native American as Christina Hollenbeck.
Yep.
Will feign a voice and affected language so they can sound Lakota. Mm-hmm. It's super sick in the head.
It is.
It's super sick in the head. And to some degree, this mother is into it. She is even posting on her Instagram about this trip and how her daughter is hanging out with Greta Thunberg.
Oh, boy.
She's so proud of her. They're at the climate conference in Madrid.
Wow.
Greta Thunberg, I told you, will and would eventually be hanging out with pieces of trash that put indigenous women in jail and others in an early grave. And I was right.
Yep, you were.
I was right. And she doesn't have a problem with it. Ask Greta Thunberg if she doesn't have a problem with it. McKeel is her daddy, and this is his Instagram. And he's also a performance artist. And a bizarre set of videos on YouTube in which he tells lies, according to himself. He's like also a professional liar, I guess. Mikal Hamid, well, just listen to it. It's insane. It's pretty crazy. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's about his daughter. Let's take a listen to him.
So then, one day the frogs and the turtles and the birds get together and go, we're going to make it happen for you. We're going to get this stick, and you're going to grab on with your mouth, and we're going to fly you up. And when we fly you up, you're going to be able to look down. You're going to see everything. So the bird lifted him up, flew him up, and Turtle saw everything. And at one point, he was so in awe about everything that he saw, he went, ah! And he let go of the stick, and he fell and broke his shell. If you go someplace where you don't belong, if you get in where you don't fit in, don't act surprised, because if you do, you're gonna fall.
If you get in where you don't fit in, then you're gonna fall.
That's right. Wow.
Wise words from Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Ebony, are you listening? This could be prophetic words for you, girl. Grandpa also was in showbiz, probably the most successful of all of them. His name was Young Jesse because he had a voice like an old man, and he didn't want people to think he was old, so he named himself Young Jesse.
Yeah.
With hit songs like Mary Lou and I Smell a Rat. I guess that's a long line of people in the family all into the show business thing, like Greta Thunberg's family.
Yeah.
And in this Insta video from her performance art, I won't show you any of her nude photos that she's taken, or the weird, the multitude of other weird things.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, do not make her an appropriate candidate to be representing missing and murdered indigenous women when you're objectifying black and brown bodies.
Yep, exactly.
Objectifying them and then putting war paint on your face and then taking naked pictures of yourself, because that is exactly what we charge the colonizers with doing. Objectifying the bodies of women that are native, and then hurting those women, assaulting those women, raping those women, disappearing those women, murdering those women. These people are the worst to represent that. Not to mention the fact that they would frame an innocent woman like Kathleen and leave another innocent elder in a hospital to die. These people don't have a conscience. But in her performance art days, I will show you something more tame. This is Messiah playing the role of menstrual blood. She is the period. She is the menstruation.
She is the menstruation.
She is the menses. She is the moon. Here she is. There's a woman laying down, and then she's covered in some kind of very... What kind of cloth is that?
Like silky...
See-through.
Yeah.
Meshy. She pulls this red cloth out of her vagina.
I see.
From inside her pants. And Messiah, Ebony, Bursiaga Hamid, puts it around her neck. She's wearing what looks like a carnival outfit with those
Puffy
poofy
sleeves,
Roomba, like...
Sleeves, yeah.
Those sleeves that Charo wore.
Oh, yeah.
And she's acting like Charo now, shaking her shoulders.
Yeah.
And this form-fitting kind of like unitard type of thing. And she's dancing around. Oh no, there's pants on it. And that is how you perform as a period, everyone.
That's all I have to say about that, period.
Listen, I think that the critique is very fair when these people were turned into some kind of celebrities for their altruism and their work at Standing Rock.
Yep.
This article in The Guardian, we have a link here to the article. This is a Man Repeller article, by Emery, in which the headline is talking about the 4 native people who are sharing their vision. And this is from October of 2018, folks. Okay?
Yeah.
So, if you look at this article, one of the people that is interviewed is a fellow standing rocker, Jade Begay. And Jade Begay runs the Indigenous Rising Media, IRM. Jade Begay is quoted here as being the leader of Indigenous Rising Media. We'll have the image here of IRM being run by Jade Begay in a moment. Indigenous Rising Media is also one of the partners in that original email by Indigenous Environmental Network that went to COP25 in Madrid. I don't know if Jade Begay herself was there, but Indigenous Rising Media certainly was.
Yeah.
And in this, we'll see again and again the same players, the same group of people interviewed on their perspective as the leaders of the indigenous organizations. Messiah is mentioned in this article as well. She's the one right after Jade Begay. And Messiah is quoted as saying that she is Lakota, Mexica, and Quechuan. So in this slide, you will see that she uses her full name, Messiah Ebony Bursiaga Hamid, and now the Apache is gone. Where'd the Apache go?
Exactly.
Try
that for Lakota.
I don't know. And then she added one. She's now Quechan.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. What's Quechan?
I don't know.
I know Quechua.
Yeah.
I know Quiche. What the hell is Quechan?
Yeah.
Can someone tell me what Quechan is? Okay.
Oh my God.
Linda Black Elk also appears in the Indigenous Media Rising page. Indigenous Rising Media here has on their Instagram Linda Black Elk, who was part of the medics groups that included Mulaney Stoneman and the other woman that put Kathleen's mom in the hospital, Vanessa Clemens Bolins, all of them actresses.
Yep.
Here's Candy Mossett White on the Indigenous Rising Media again, they just recycle them. You just saw her in the Roots one. Here she is, Indigenous Rising Media. Here's Dallas. Here's Dallas Goldtooth. Here's Tom Goldtooth. So they're just using the same Indians on these different pages and going with it. And of course, from the We Can people connected to Leonardo DiCaprio, we got Casey Camp Horniak. Oh, she shows up on their page. She's also at the COP conference with Greta. And one of the people that you will see again is Ariel Derringer. Ariel Derringer, as you can see here, is claims to be Athabascan Chippewayan First Nation, and that she is the executive director of Indigenous Climate Action. That is one of the other groups that were partners going to COP25 with the Indigenous Environmental Network from the email that we started the show with. Okay?
Yep.
There are 4 or 5 groups at the bottom that share all of the links to their Instagrams and all of their media. Here's Sherry Foytlin of the Indigenous Environmental Network, the one that has the Disney witch laugh.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That was chanting.
The
Cops and Clan go hand in hand.
Go hand in hand.
The one that got arrested with Winnea Locke, screaming and yelling.
Yep.
The one that was screaming and yelling in Texas at the children's facilities, detention facilities. Here is Tara Hauska from the Water Protective Legal Collective, also on their page.
Oh,
she's right there in one of the pictures with hand raised.
Hands raised.
Necktie on. She also works for the Bernie Sanders campaign again and again and again. Joy Brunn is another environmental network employee. She also appears on the IRMR page. And so does Prolific the Rapper. And why not just go ahead and put Bernie in there with him, because he is part of all of this. He has been since Standing Rock part of all of this nonsense. Bernie, shame on you.
Exactly.
Shame on you for working with people that purport themselves to be the leaders of energy policy and protecting resources and vulnerable people, and they actually do the opposite. Here's an Insta video from their Indigenous Media Rising page. This video shows you. The next one is the video. Yep. Oh, sorry. The next one is Lila June.
Yeah.
Here's the video. Here's a picture of Lila June, the singer, who just yesterday announced that she's running for Congress. Politicians, actors, and criminals. Oh, my.
Yep.
And she was at Standing Rock, too. She was another one of the performers.
Sing songs.
Prolific the Rapper is a performer. So many of these actors and performers that got involved in all of this. In this Insta video, here's the Insta video that I was promising you a moment ago. Go ahead and play it, and we will narrate. We're in front of the White House. It's pulling back, or the Capitol. And that's it. Sherry Foytlin screaming like a crazy woman at the podium. Bunch of women marching.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's
people.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, he's
Remember
right
the march that Arvel Looking Horse is in? And there he is, Arvel Looking Horse.
Okay.
There's Mama LaDonna. There's Candy Mossett White. There's Sherry Foytlin. All of these same people in the video that protest in Chicago.
Okay.
Defend the Sacred. Who was remember that protest where all those people were at?
Our message.
There's what's her name? Joy Braun.
Yeah.
And there's LaDonna.
Yeah.
Mama LaDonna. All the Standing Rock phonies, frauds, criminals. Of course, Leonardo DiCaprio's foundation is funding We Can, that works with the Society of Native Nations, that works with AIM, that works with SoCal. I've shown you that they're literally tagged in these posts. Okay, folks? Are you learning? Here is the Leonardo DiCaprio post, because he's hanging out with these people. They didn't just show up at that march and then he left. They know each other. Here is a picture he took with the whole gang, and Dallas Goldtooth is in the picture.
Yeah.
They're hanging out. And of course, They don't tell you he helps fund many of these groups and organizations.
Yeah, exactly.
That includes, of course, one of the pictures they have on Indigenous Rising Media of the serial rapist Red Wolf Pope.
Oh
yes, they left it up.
They left it still there?
It's still there. It's still there. They still promote a serial rapist on their page. And the guy from Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They were in D.C. Remember, Wes Clark Jr. was also there hanging out with them. Remember that?
Yep.
Remember I showed you all of this before? And in this Insta video, Dallas Goldtooth is going to go and chat with Bernie. They're going to go talk with Bernie. He was one of the headsmen. He was one of the people that made the decision to get Kathleen out of the camp and kidnap her mother. This person involved with the Indigenous Environmental Network, they have close political ties to Bernie Sanders. Here's that video. There's his dad, Tom, in the back. Native Nations Rise. They meet with Bernie.
Yeah, we need to have a seat at the table.
People here making these decisions.
We
need more of that in the future.
Bernie Sanders met today with tribal representatives. Can you read that?
Issues environmental degradation.
Went on record about fast-tracking energy development. This is dirty energy development.
So I think the American people, the average American, does not want to see this. Your job, my job, is to bring those people together to say to Trump and his corporate friends, you can't do this. But we need a strategy to do that.
Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon sat with natives.
There's Merkley and there's Martin O'Malley.
We need to figure out how to live in harmony with the living systems of this earth. We need to develop them.
Remember Martin O'Malley?
And take more life.
He's marching with them and the actors and actresses. How many times have we talked about Senator Merkley being involved with the people directly connected to the trafficking of children and to the kidnapping of unaccompanied minors in Tijuana? Do you remember me bringing you that story?
Yes.
Is this starting to make sense to you? The same politicians are all involved as well. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, O'Malley, Merkley. Here's a video from their the other partner involved in this, and that email that went to COP25 is ICA. ICA has a video on their page about the storming the church. I want you to go to ICA storming church.
There we go.
By the way, in case you don't remember who this is, ICA, from their Instagram page, was involved. It's called the Indigenous Climate Action, that organization that the woman I just showed you, Ariel, is the executive director of.
Yeah.
That Messiah is part of. She's also part of that organization. They were the ones that were filming the action taken after the Nathan Phillips hoax.
Okay.
You may not have remembered it. It was them doubling down on their disgusting behavior of fake outrage by going to the Catholic Church and marching in during Mass with drums. Do you remember what they did? I want to remind you. Here's the first video. This group, they just went in the Indigenous Climate March, was there to do this.
We need a copy of the press release so Uncle Nate can read off the demands. Can someone pull it up, please? My phone is dead. We are here in peaceful gathering to have Uncle Nate read demands of the indigenous folks of this land to the Catholic Church as a whole entire organization. These demands are simple and can be implemented by the Catholic Church immediately. Immediately they could be implementing these demands. Uncle Nate will read them now. Please direct your attention to Uncle Nate.
kind of like. Anybody have glasses?
Him is Raymond Kingfisher, who at the time was part and parcel of the hoax. He was right next to him, as was Chase Iron Eyes and his daughter Takata and many of these other people, including Tara Hauska. They were all part of that hoax too.
Yeah.
The same people that I'm just showing you are part of these groups. They were part of that hoax. They were going to feign outrage and make it look like there was a clash between Trump supporters, MAGA hat wearing kids, and Nathan Phillips.
Exactly.
It was all staged.
It was.
How many of these things have I showed you that they stage with actors? Many of whom aren't even real Indians. Here's the next video. This was done with a bunch of fake media like Raymond Kingfisher interviewing him. No, they're all actors, part and parcel of the whole smear campaign, and he's reading their demands.
We demand that the students of Covington Catholic High School be reprimanded, not just by the school officials as seniors, but by their upcoming universities. We demand the Catholic Church hold themselves responsible for the 500+ years of genocide that our indigenous people have endured and still persist through by implementing the following with reprimanding of land and reconciliation of indigenous peoples to the U.S. and across the world. We demand that the Catholic Church revoke the lawful bulls related to the doctrine of discovery, which laid the foundation for religious prejudice and dehumanization of indigenous peoples. Respectfully. Thank you very much.
Boo. Boo.
Oh, man.
Boo. Remember that him and Chase Iron Eyes using the Indigenous Peoples March page with a picture of Nathan Phillips with Holocaust pictures in the background.
Yeah.
People getting burned alive and hung or lynched and burned.
Yeah.
In the background, right behind him, giant pictures. And they were raising money and also making these demands and demanding a meeting with the Pope.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yes,
they wanted a meeting with the Pope.
Oh yeah.
And this is what the desecration. These are people who used the Religious Freedom Act to try to make a case, set legal precedent at Standing Rock, and since they couldn't do it there, they recently did it with Scott Warren as part of the smuggling operation of migrants.
Man.
It's disgusting.
It is.
The lengths that they will go to get their way, to con, and in this case, they went into a church. No respect for the fact that there was a ceremony happening.
Yeah, mass was happening.
The thing they decried that was done to them at Standing Rock. The thing they decried that was done to them here in Inipi. They went and did. Pot calling the kettle black much? Here they are marching up to the church steps. If you missed it, they did it. And they still have it up on their page. Like, they're proud of this.
Wow.
And the lawsuit's coming around, so I'm glad I'm getting all these videos now.
Exactly.
You all should go on their Insta and download it.
Yeah, exactly. They're drumming and marching up the steps of the church. Bunch of people. They're drumming, marching. They're very loud. And inside is a mass. Inside, I don't know what part of the mass they're at. It's the beginning or...
They're pounding drums.
But they're pounding drums and walking into the church. That's having a mass at that time.
This took place around Christmas time, folks.
Yeah, it was right around on Christmas.
Oh, I remember vividly because Doug McLean was playing Santa in Tijuana, and he went there and he was filming at the Indigenous Peoples March where this sham took place the very next day.
Exactly.
I remember every little bit of what these criminals are doing and when they did it. And Messiah, being one of those, was also involved in the Indigenous Peoples March. Here she is,
oh my God,
selling sponsorships from her Facebook page for that sham event in DC.
Wow.
Show how, and it's got silver. This is no small donor sponsorship.
5,000, 10,000, 7,000. Jeez.
Yeah, the gold, silver, and silver packages, and you can see it's from her Facebook page, dated on. Could you show us the date from her Facebook page? You'll have to scroll to the right until you show the date.
I wasn't sure where to go. There we go. December
19 of 2018.
2018.
Told you it was right around Christmas. So, the International Indigenous Youth Council was one of the other groups connected to this. Here they are, the Indigenous International Indigenous Youth Council. Is that it?
Yep.
That says that they were at this basilica with Nathan Phillips, and you recall who that group is connected to, right? That is connected to Tom Goldtooth and Dallas Goldtooth. Here is ICAA Amy Goodman and We Can. This is the Indigenous Climate Action Group Instagram post about the executive director is in the picture next to Casey Camp Horniak and Amy Goodman. And you can see right in the background, this is a We Can event.
Yep.
We Can, that group that's financed by Leonardo DiCaprio that I showed you in my previous shows.
Exactly.
That I showed you these people were on the board of. Yes, that one. Indigenous Climate Action also had march pictures with Josie Tenorio Tewa, who's now the paramour of Brennan Nastasio of Standing Rock fame. Brennan Nastasio was the man that at Standing Rock, along with Izzy Hernandez and Mike Fasig, all did a stunt worthy of a bad Hollywood picture, and disarmed this methed out pipeline security worker by the name of Kyle Thompson. Since then, he has broken up with another activist, Samantha Magdaleno, who has been adamantly exposing the abuse that he put her through, frequently reposting videos of her bruises, pictures of her bruises, and videos of what appear to be very dangerous, loud, and sometimes even drunken fights between the two. Nonetheless, Josie Tenorio has, throughout this ordeal, been sticking up for her man.
Yep.
And she is one of the leaders that are part of these groups of missing and murdered and Indigenous women leaders. Here she is marching with this group of people on her own page.
Yep.
If you see her avatar is her and Brennan running for missing and murdered Indigenous women. Once again, how are you going to justify that when you have a person that has been accused, credibly accused, of beating women?
Yep.
Problematic. So, here is ICA posting with Tom Goldtooth.
Tom and Dallas.
There's Tom and Dallas. This is from their Instagram page. Okay? And here's Winona LaDuke.
Oh, great.
And I put several different pictures so you could see there is not just one.
She's here. She's there.
And then there's Winnie Locke. The one that Sherry Foytland got arrested with. There she is with the executive director of this organization. And here is Messiah.
Oh, man.
Playing some character and walking around in a trench coat on stage, a great trench coat from the same page, right at the very top. This is her from COP25, excuse me.
Yes.
And I just have to ask how somebody gets this kind of a gig, because she was actively hoboing it as an activist out at Occupy Wall Street since a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And according to her couch surfing page, all these, out of work actresses like Bendeja for Fraud, they have couch surfing pages.
Yeah.
They don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out
That's
of,
right.
really. But somehow they managed to travel to all the countries listed here on her couch surfing. If you scroll, she says she's fluent in English. She's learning French, Hindi, Lugand, and Spanish. She sings songs in Spanish. She must have learned just the one. I've heard her. But she doesn't actually speak it. I don't think probably either does her mom, because I saw her calling a prickly pear, which is translated into tuna in Spanish, an atuna, which is like the fish.
Yeah, okay.
And according to this, she's visited India, Indonesia, Mexico, Panama, and Uruguay. She's lived in India, in Mexico, in the U.S., and in Uruguay.
Wow.
She's traveled to all these countries. Tell me how a girl who says she grew up in Oakland... Oh, you took it off.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
Says she grew up in Oakland, and after leaving school at 15... Well, that doesn't sound like she graduated, does it?
No.
So she's a high school dropout that magically started traveling around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And discovering her passion, which is apparently putting elderly women in hospitals to die, and lying about a crime that put an innocent woman in jail and kept her there for at least 6 months. Is that what you were pursuing? She was a reporter with the V Girls. There was a secret group on WordPress that she was part of,
really?
Where it says that she was a reporter for the V Girls. And I couldn't get into it, but I did screen capture the V Girls report on Occupy. So she was play pretending reporter at Occupy. And where, again, she never mentioned she was Apache or Lakota or any of that jazz.
Exactly. Didn't need to there.
No. But suddenly, now she's even Quechua or Quechua or whatever the heck she says she is. Ariel and Tara are in this We Can Indigenous Climate Action post on Instagram. She is pictured speaking, joining We Can's International on May 22nd, Women of the Front Lines and Fossil Fuel Resistance. And so it says there that they're featuring Tara Hauska, a national campaign director for Honor the Earth, with Winona LaDuke, but also she is the nation's executive director. No, that is Ariel's stuff. I was wanting Hauska stuff, which is she was the national something Indigenous or Native liaison for the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Okay.
That is Tara Hauska. She's got her finger in all the pies.
Yep.
And what are they focused on? Well, it says here their focus is on line 3. That's what's next, kids.
Yep.
If you haven't been paying attention. Line 3, line 3, line 3, line 3.
Yep.
This circus is coming to town. And Ariel is part of it. And this organization featuring this executive director, Ariel Checkway, whatever. Here is seen posting in 2016 at the very same time Standing Rock was happening.
Okay.
She's in the Sahara.
Oh.
In the Sahara Desert. And you know what's really odd? Here's her other post about No Dapple in 2016 while she's in the Sahara Desert.
Really?
And she is hashtag
No
Indigenous
Dapple.
Rights No Dapple. All the way back then. They all go back to connections with Standing Rock somehow.
Yep.
Ariel Facebook page about shows that she is a Rainforest Action Network, which we've talked about in the Wrong Kind of Green articles. Sketch NGO. former communications director of the Athabascan Chippewa First Nation, former interim executive director of the Sierra Club, which we recently talked about as well, and now Indigenous Climate Action executive director. And if the first thing on her page, right across from her about, is an article featuring her in Democracy Now!
Wow.
With Greta Thunberg, Rose Whipple, and herself asking to people to listen to Indigenous people about this climate change stuff. Okay? Isn't that incredible? All of the things that are in this coming together. We now see the Sierra Club heavily involved in the camps for the migrants in the south of Texas. In this video from Democracy Now!, you hear a part of the interview of this article. Greta Thunberg.
A group of Indigenous leaders then took to the stage to sing and give speeches. But after some of their speeches, the microphone was cut and the lights on the stage were shut off as others tried to speak. This is Ariel Deranger, founder and executive director of the group Indigenous Climate Action of Canada, a member of the Athabascan Chippewa First Nation, describing what happened.
My name is Ariel Deranger, and I'm a member of the Athabasca Chippewa First Nation and the executive director of Indigenous Climate Action. And I'm from Canada, Treaty 8 territory. This was the Futures for Friday March, and what happened was there was an Indigenous block, and throughout the march we really struggled to maintain our position right behind the front of the banner. And so when the Indigenous people finally made it to the front and the stage, they took the stage. And I think it was a really symbolic act because of the fact that we were pushed back in the march. People were frustrated with us. It's symbolic of the fact that this is exactly what happens inside the UNFCCC and the COP. We are continually pushed to the side, pushed back. Our issues are constantly pushed back. And it's only when we do things like demand action by taking the stage that we see our voices heard. And so not only did we take the stage, but they wanted us off, and we just kept singing and chanting. They turned off all the lights, they took the microphones away, and we still kept chanting and singing songs, including singing songs, the Women's Warrior song. There were women from the Global South that were speaking, women from the North that were singing. It was a beautiful moment in which Indigenous people symbolically took the stage, took our land back, took our voices back from the people that have been leading the climate movement. But the reality is that Indigenous peoples are leading climate solutions.
That was Ariel Deranger, founder and executive director of the group Indigenous Climate Action. Today, in Greta Thunberg's first press conference at the UN Climate Summit, alongside other youth activists of Fridays for Future, she and Indigenous youth leader Rose Whipple answered just one question. It was from Democracy Now!
Hi, I'm Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! My question is for Rose and for Greta. You opened the conference with Indigenous youth. Greta, you've traveled the world and the United States, and you've gone to the Standing Rock Reservation, the Pine Ridge Reservation. I wanted to ask you why Indigenous resistance is so important to you. And Rose, if you can talk about what you're demanding of the U.S. government now.
It is so incredibly important that we listen to Indigenous people because they are suffering and their rights are being violated across the world, and they are also among the ones who are being hit the most and quickest by the climate and environmental emergency. And also they have been living in balance with nature for hundreds of years. So we have, I think, we need to listen to them because they have valuable knowledge we need in this crucial time of crisis.
Thank you, Greta. Rose?
Thank you for your question. That is a question that we're we're never asked. We're never asked what we want and what we need. Because right now, for over 500 years, we have been on the front lines dying, risking our lives. We are still in prison today as political prisoners who are fighting for our lands, for our waters. And I think right now, indigenous people worldwide, in general,
look at her eyes. It was like she was looking for her line.
to be stood with.
Wait, what was my line?
Yeah.
And not
eyes
to
went
be
back
in
and
the
forth.
background, to be in the front. Because we are on the front lines doing this work today.
These
right
are
now.
actors and actresses.
We deserve
folks.
to be listened
These
to.
are actors and
we also
actresses
deserve to
that
have our lands back.
have a role to play. And sometimes they forget their lines. Sometimes their stripper heels get too difficult to navigate and they fall down when they're supposed to make their cameo appearance on Cartel Cruise. And sometimes, you know, that's just what happens. Sometimes that's the way that these things go in the acting world. What's my next slide here?
One moment, I'll bring up the scene.
I would like that very much, if you could.
Just give me a second.
We are at the Video for Democracy Now, the Land Back movement.
Yep,
If you were listening in that video, you heard them say, we got our land back. And I was like,
in Spain?
There it is. They're starting to use the land back movement hashtag. What is the very first post on the Indigenous Rising Media page right now?
Land back
It's this post about the land back movement and how it got started.
Oh, boy.
So, if you wanted to know what the roots of this...
Yeah, where the lines came from.
These in Mexican Indians that are that come from no tribes, that change tribes, that become Apache and Quiche and all sorts of things out of nowhere and pretend Indian. They have this idea about getting the land back.
Yep.
And now it's coming into these campaigns. Here is IEN's post about... This was just sent around in an email today about how angry they are, outraged about the Native American women that were at COP25 and they're removed from the U.S. Embassy while they were trying to honor missing and murdered women.
Yeah.
So here's the scandals, folks. They turned the lights off on the stage and they turned off the mic when they were trying to take the land back and stand there for missing and murdered Indigenous women, and they went to protest at the U.S. Embassy. And the cops came and they removed them. Here is the post, the part about where it says the cops came, the police came and removed these people. It's shameful that this happened. And then they go into how extractive fossil fuel industries implanting man camps for transient industry workers located near Native American communities is what has caused all of this violence against women. I know it is a pretzel of a thing to try to get you, from point A to point B, but these Native American arguments and from these missing and murdered Indigenous women's groups roll themselves into that pretzel and stage events so they can say the extractive industries are raping our women. And this person I have never heard of her, Beneshi Albert, basically new on the scene to me. I don't know. I'm going to have to research who this is, but says she's the movement director of Indigenous Environmental Network, made a call to action in the email. And here is the video that goes along with this event in which they're talking about these women and the violence against them. And Casey Camp Horniak, somebody get her an Oscar for this award. We'll start off this video, and as you'll notice, one of the actresses in the lineup of what I can only guess is a bunch of actors and actresses, because if you have one fake Indian, how many of them are fake? I found a bunch of them already. Here's Ebony Hamid playing Indian in Spain, and Casey Camp Horniak crying about the women. It's an action honoring
From the
missing and murdered
Americas,
Indigenous
from
women.
North America, from Canada, from the United States, from all across the nations who are wanting to stand here and bring attention to threats that are happening to our Indigenous women because of fossil fuel industry, the extractive industry, and that we're wanting to make sure that we continue to bring attention to protect our Indigenous women, to protect Mother Earth, and to stand together to do that. And we're standing in front of the U.S. Embassy to make sure that they hear our voices.
The United States has a long history of ignoring Indigenous peoples and Indigenous women and devaluing us. That's putting it lightly, right? I mean, we've been experiencing genocide, forced relocation, boarding schools, all of those things.
Our lives are important.
Casey Camp,
When I think of the amount of the women who have been sacrificed on the altar of the extractive industry, it hurts me to my core. I'm here with my granddaughter, and for the strength of my own mother and grandmother, she's able to survive this day, and it gives me hope for the future to stand among these young people and to see our way forward through the devastation.
I always wonder which one of my sisters am I not going to see here next year. Already this year we had a sister from Colombia who was murdered. She was Cristina. She was at the permanent forum this year.
I just want to remind folks, as we see these tearful stories, I mean, obviously they can cry on cue. I saw Mulaney do this. I saw Christina Hollenbeck do this. I saw Messiah do this. I've seen all of these people cry on cue, pretend to have hearts and souls and minds. But these people are reading lines in many cases. They're inventing things, and they will even use real deaths that they were involved in, that they helped to cause, to raise money, to pull on your heartstrings. Like the people, Laura Christina Livingston Berger and many of the people that were in Tijuana, that as you can see are part of these delegations of Indians, that kept the migrants in the streets in the baddest part of town in Tijuana, which led to the robbing and murdering of 2 of the migrants, the activist migrants that decided to work with the mercenary activists from these groups, that included indigenous groups involved with this climate policy nonsense. And I have zero faith, zero belief in Casey Camp Horniak's concern for indigenous women, because right after Mulaney Stoneman kidnapped and left the woman whose guardianship she took over in a hospital to die, she went off to that march in D.C. Mulaney Stoneman was in that march in D.C. hanging out with the big wigs of the Standing Rock movement, Faith Spotted Eagle, and Casey Camp Horniak. There's Mulaney Stoneman, the kidnapper, hanging out with Faith Spotted Eagle, who gave her agency to put her women's society out there and commit crimes against other people with impunity. And there's Casey. This was posted by the actress Maya Rose Burko. Are you going to tell me that these women that work with people and organizations that have leadership that rapes women, that abuses women, that denies women who are abused a voice, who silence, who try to censor anyone that exposes their crimes against other indigenous people and vulnerable people, as protectors of the sacred, as protectors of missing and murdered indigenous women, as the moral authority with the crocodile tears to go and tell you whether or not you can have energy policy in your state, in your country, that has to do with extractive industries? Because they're the moral authority on that, because of the man camps. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that once again, Time magazine has shown how meaningless it is to be named Person of the Year.
Yeah, exactly.
Using an actress that basically this rewards affluenza. If you are from a rich acting family, never done much with your life except boycott school, and you want to continue to be a professional liar along with the rest of your family and make money off of it, you get the award of the year.
Exactly.
But they put Enrique Peña Nieto on the cover, so I knew it was a scam from a long time ago.
Exactly.
As I knew there was a scam involved the minute I saw Ebony's face on the pages involved with these people negotiating on behalf of indigenous communities for climate policy.
Yeah.
And I hope that people share this show and expose all these frauds and these phonies, and that you're all connecting the dots and starting to make the bigger picture. In your mind, you start to understand what these folks are about and why they're so freaking dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Stay tuned for more here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to KPPPLP Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Thank you for your support, and good night.